explain cross-chain swap.
Right. Okay. So the difference between something that's a centralized exchange doing a trade and what we're doing on Qortal, which is a completely cross-chain trade, is that, okay, so person A has Bitcoin. They want to buy whatever other token over here, right? If they want to do that right now, they have to deposit their money to a centralized exchange. So does this person. Then they do the swapping, and then they give the other person the money. In a cross-chain swap, you literally trade directly from one blockchain to another. Now, this sounds very simple, like, oh, well, if we just agree, I send you the coins, you send me the coins, there we go, right? But in reality, it doesn't work like that. There's escrows and things like that for a reason, right? So you have to get by both that and also the fact that you cannot have anything that's controlled by anyone doing any of the exchanging of anything, right? So with ours, what we have done, and the hardest part for us was actually automating the process, because in a cross-chain swap, there are multiple parts, and you have to initiate, accept the acceptance, accept the accepted acceptance, and so forth. There's like 4 transactions that actually take place in order for the cross-chain swap to happen, because it's actually trading from one blockchain to another, which is really difficult shit to do. So we built it all. We had the cross-chain part working a long time ago. But the part that was hard was figuring out how we're going to be able to make that something that an everyday user on a computer can sit down and use, and not have to sit down and click and come back and check a few minutes later and click again and come back and check. That wouldn't work. So we had to automate the process.
So the empowering aspect of atomic cross-chain swap, as you says, it takes out the middleman and it really allows for a P2P transaction between 2 blockchains. And that's really, for me, adoption, so important for adoption moving forward on a more sovereign, tip versus the traditional way right now on centralized exchanges, where you're giving up your keys, you're giving up your ownership of your assets.
And there
just
are
like a
other
bank.
decentralized exchanges. There are some real decentralized exchanges, but they require you to add some code to your coin, and then you basically list yourself on the exchange. And it's cool because it is actually a decentralized exchange, but it's hard for people to get into because they have to actually have a coder to do the work. Then they have to actually once they've had it set up, then they still have those multiple transactions that have to take place for the actual trade to take place. So what we ended up doing on Qortal, and instead of trying to automate it by centralizing it, which is what most people have done, they've taken the hard part and they've automated the hard part by centralizing it. Which, yeah, sure, that can work, but that's not what we're trying to do, right? So what we ended up doing is basically building, for lack of a better term, we're calling it a trade bot. It's not really a trade bot, but I'm just going to call it that for now. It's a trade bot that runs on your computer, that has control of wallets that it creates, that you can get the keys from. So you still have control of the keys. Nobody else knows them except for you and the bot, which is your computer. And that bot then takes and issues the automated transaction, the smart contract, onto the chain, and the other person accepts, and then the 2 bots take over from that point on and complete the trade. So all you have to do is do what you would do on any other normal exchange, issue the order, and then wait. And now another thing that people need to realize with cross-chain trades is that since it's actually trading from one chain to another, it's reliant on the block times of both chains involved. So it doesn't matter how fast Quartz block time is, whatever other coin that we're trading with still needs 3 confirmations for it to happen. So for a Bitcoin trade, the minimum time that it's going to take, I think it's two or three, sorry. It's going to take either 20 or 30 minutes minimal for any trade to take place, and that's just because we have to wait on blockchain transactions to confirm. We have to wait on the next block. So when we list a coin that's faster, we're not going to be limited as much by that. And also when we list or when we get the Lightning Network, which is now in a testing phase, and they're not really using it for any larger transactions than really small ones, gets to a point where it can be used, we can make that part of it and actually make it a real-time, more of an exchange than it'll be initially. And that's the whole reason it's called a trade portal, is because it's not an exchange. Sure, it looks like one. Sure, it does all the things that an exchange does, but it's not an exchange, and it's not a DEX, because I hate that term. It is a decentralized trade mechanism that we're calling a portal. You send coins, and you get other ones back, and it comes directly from the other one's blockchain. So there's a little bit of a learning curve that comes along with like understanding what exactly is going on, and like realizing that because of the two chains, there's a little bit of a slowdown, and it's just grasping that and just being okay with it. Because your other alternative is to use a centralized exchange, which almost every single one I've used in the past has either disappeared or been hacked, and I've lost 8 or 9, maybe 10 Bitcoin in those hacks and shutdowns. So for me, waiting a few extra minutes for something to take place is not a big deal, and I'm hoping that that's what everybody else will think too.
Yeah, that's a good explanation. I mean, and here's the deal. So with Qortal, besides having the trade portal, the idea is to give value to actually why the heck do you want to use it to begin with? What's the point of going in and trading and just to do that? That's the problem with a lot of projects. It's like you get set up, you get the blockchain running, and then it's just a wallet with like their crypto,
Right.
and it's like, okay, now what can I do? So the idea.
So that was the main function, or sorry, that was the main reason that I wanted QChat to be live before the Genesis. Sorry.
Yeah. So the idea is to actually provide value in terms of usage. And so the first aspect on the Qortal blockchain is this idea of QChat. And it's running, and it's actually really cool. So the idea with QChat is that you have an actual decentralized encrypted chat on it right now that's working. And what it does is it's a 24-hour, right? It sends a basically every chat is a what do you call it?
It's an unconfirmed transaction.
Unconfirmed transaction. So
what we did is we built a special transaction type that this transaction type never confirms. And so by default, the transaction will expire after 1 day, or however many, 1,440 blocks. So after that unconfirmed transaction expires, it's gone.
Yeah. So that's really interesting idea. So the idea is so it's not putting bloat.
Instant because it's unconfirmed, right?
It's unconfirmed, so it's instant. So it's like a centralized Telegram app. However, it doesn't go on the blockchain because it's unconfirmed, so you don't have blockchain bloat. And then and it's fully encrypted. So, I mean, that's a really cool innovation that's just right out of the gate inside.
I think that's a world first. I don't know of any other actual blockchain-based real-time chat that exists. But yeah, I mean, and that took our team a week to put together. So if you consider that it took our team a week to build that, and realize how long it took us to build the base platform, then realize how much must be in that for that to have taken that long, and then realize how badass this platform is going to be.
Yeah, so my point of bringing that up is that, as this moves forward and, you can already create groups. So there's actually an Alfa Vedic group already in there, and you can join it and you can chat. We have people in there chatting. Now the chat does expire after 24 hours, your message, which is cool. Has a lot of great functionality for that. I love that. But also if you want to have a more historical, like Telegram type of experience, that is in development right now as well. And,
we will have the ability to pin, and pinning will cost a transaction fee because pinning will actually put the message onto the chain where it will stay. I believe we're going to have to make another new transaction type for that. I'm not entirely sure, but we are working on getting that completed so that you will be able to pin. But in the meantime, what we're doing now is a settings page where you can choose on your client side how long you want the messages to stay.
Oh, great.
So you will be able to cache the messages locally and view them later at your convenience or whatever for as long as you decide. So think of yourself as the server, because it's all decentralized, right? So everybody is essentially the server on the network. Every node is capable of doing what every other node with the same plugins installed is capable of doing, right? So if you, as a node with QChat installed by default, because it's a default plugin, you're good to go, right? Like you have everything necessary to make this happen without any central server.
So the beauty of Qortal is like Ethereum or EOS or Tron. It is an essential virtual machine in that these nodes are all running apps.
They've kind of made that term a little, I don't really like it anymore. Like our smart contracts, they were saying that their smart contracts are a virtual machine, which is true, but we have done ours slightly differently. Our smart contracts are not a virtual machine. They're a virtual CPU. So they're simpler.
Explain smart contract for those in the
Okay, so a
audience who don't
smart
know.
contract, all a smart contract is something that can be issued and be sitting on the blockchain waiting for something else to happen, in which time it does something else automatically by itself and makes something else happen. So it's like a bot sitting there waiting for you to give it a command, and then it executes that command without anybody doing anything, right?
Which is how most of these DeFi supposedly decentralized exchanges are. They're just using Ethereum smart contracts
Right, but the
to
problem with the Ethereum contracts is that they made them too complex. When you make something too complex, there's too much room for holes and issues to then
be
happen.
hacked.
That's what we saw. Right, that's what we saw with the DAO, decentralized autonomous organization that was put out on Ethereum right after it launched, and at which point it was hacked for 20 something million dollars, and at which point the blockchain of Ethereum decided to roll back, which is not a thing a blockchain should ever do. And that's when Ethereum lost all credibility, if it had any at all, with the people who like decentralized technology. Because if a blockchain can just decide to roll back like that and do that, how is that decentralized?